turn in the Old Testament to Daniel 4, and then in the New Testament to 1 Corinthians 15. 1 Corinthians 15. We'll start at Daniel 4 and then go to 1 Corinthians 15. After this, Mary Cruz is going to share a special music with us as far as her voice will go. And if she stops and just shares the rest of it verbally, we'll understand. She's had a bad cough, and some of that stuff is going around. I'm just thankful the Lord has allowed me to continue my general policy that if somebody else gets a cold or something, I don't pick it up. And I don't need those gifts myself. And so far, so good. But every once in a while, he reminds me that I'm human. I'm included. So anyway, Daniel 4, we're beginning a series on God's plan of the ages. It's God's world history from his perspective. And we're going to introduce it today. Nebuchadnezzar, after God had struck him down with madness, and he came to his senses, he reports this in Daniel 4, 34 and following. And at the end of the time, I, Nebuchadnezzar, lifted my eyes to heaven, and my understanding returned to me. And I blessed the Most High, and praised and honored him who lives forever. For his dominion is an everlasting dominion. His kingdom is from generation to generation. All the inhabitants of the earth are reputed as nothing. He does according to his will in the army of heaven and among the inhabitants of the earth. No one can restrain his hand or say to him, "What have you done?" And he goes on to report that he had his reason restored to him. And he says in verse 37, "Now I, Nebuchadnezzar, praise and extol and honor the King of heaven, all of whose works are truth and his ways justice, and those who walk in pride he is able to put down." And I would just add, he will put them all down, and he will be exalted forever in his rightful place. Going over to 1 Corinthians 15, I just want to read at verse 20 and following. This puts in perspective the role of the resurrection of Jesus Christ in the fulfillment of God being all in all and being the King of history. The flow in reference especially to the resurrection is what we're going to see here in this little section starting at verse 20. He says, "But now is Christ risen from the dead and has become the first fruits of those who have fallen asleep," that is, those who have died in Christ. "For since by man came death, by man also came the resurrection of the dead. For as in Adam all died, even so in Christ all shall be made alive, but each one in his own order. Christ the first fruits, afterward those who are Christ at his coming. Then comes the end, when he delivers the kingdom to God the Father, when he puts an end to all rule and all authority and power, for he must reign till he has put all enemies under his feet. The last enemy that will be destroyed is death. For he has put all things under his feet. But when he says all things are put under him, it is evident that he who put all things under him is accepted. Now when all things are made subject to him, then the Son himself will also be subject to him who put all things under him, that God may be all in all." And that's the flow of world history, and that God will be working that out. And we'll be looking at that in our studies the next number of weeks. Thank God for his word and the blessing of it.